Welcome back, Chelsea fans. That's right, to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. Hopefully your favorite Chelsea podcast out there and a part of the Men in Blazers Media Network. It is the often never imitated, never duplicated holiday mailbag, Christmas mailbag tradition that we've been doing for several years now. Dan, one of your hosts here, alongside Nick and Brandon Busby. That's right, bringing them in off the bench for this one.
Jake,
because
cue Return of the Mac. Do it right now, except no copyright, obviously. Come on.
Yeah, please don't get a strike for us on YouTube. That would be a very bad way to end our 2024. But look, it is all of your listener questions, Chelsea related, non-Chelsea related, covering things like the Academy Enzo Maresca's Christmas wish list, Sonia Bompastor's wish list as well, and then things like favorite bourbons and holiday traditions that we will get into here. But Nick, we are all sporting, and this is the YouTube plug at the top, very festive attire for this one. Maybe the first time ever that we've done it this well, this coordinated.
If I may, we look fucking good. We look good. I'm saying it right now. Dan, you have to take the mic down, show people your sweater, because you have the classic football shirts.
Yep.
It says Carols instead of Coors, the 94, 95 retro sweater. They do a great job with those retro sweaters. Brandon rocking is this a goalkeeper or is this a
no, it's the
throwback?
70s throwback to where they had like the Italia away kits with the white and the green and red racing stripe down the middle. So yeah, throwback to the Marco Gate 17 era.
Yeah, well, he is the exact person I think of when I see that shirt. And also the striped one down the
for
side.
Sure. He's also the same person I think of when I drink limoncello.
Yeah. Yes, correct. Then I am rocking a more traditional printed blue and white sweater for the holidays. But go to YouTube. We look good.
Yeah, the YouTube plug is done, but it's not done. We will get some admin done at the top, and the one thing that we want to plug is we're going back. We're going back to London.
What do you mean?
On a group trip, Nick.
Wait, what?
XL Tours came back to us. They said, "Hey, you didn't get run out of the country last time. We think we can get you back in. We think we can get you back to a Chelsea men's match. We think we can get you back to a Chelsea women's match. There might even be an extra add-on depending upon how Chelsea advance in the FA Cup on the men's side." Very exciting times to bring this back. Actually, reduce inflation on this one. Actually came in at like $100 less than the last time we did this, which is crazy. Like, I don't even think they're doing that anymore. Reverse inflation doesn't happen.
Yeah, well, we're doing it. If you've seen those Mint Mobile commercials that Ryan Reynolds does, we don't hate you, so we're lowering our prices. God damn it, that's exactly what we're doing. Yeah, so you're looking at a March 28th through April 3rd trip in London, FA Cup 5th round game. I think you're going to get a little Chelsea women against West Ham the next day, and then the crown jewel of them all, I think the Wednesday game is Chelsea hosting Tottenham Hotspur at Stamford Bridge. So this is going to be an excellent trip. We've already had a handful of registrations. You've already seen us promo it all over social and podcasts previously as you listen to this on Christmas Eve. But please, if you have any questions about the trip, about how these things typically run, we will be there. We will be kind of your guest hosts for being in London. If you've never been before, we'll kind of be there to start the party and end the party. And then XL Tours will be there to help coordinate the rest of it. It's a great way to get match tickets. If you've never been, match tickets can be difficult to come by. So these are guaranteed match tickets that are going to be really fun. So spring trip, first time in 2 years. Please get involved. Let's do this thing. And I don't know, let's get 30, 40 people and go jam.
Yeah, I mean, last time it was mid-20s. And I know, Brandon, that was, early introduction for the significant other to what life was like on an XL Tours trip.
For sure. What we're at, was it whatever the gin bar right across the street from the hotel, which was perfect. But we're back. I don't know if Ernie, Gio, and Brandon Wilson are going to be allowed back, but we'd love to have you if you can, because those guys maximized every second that they were there, which you absolutely love to see. The other thing, like with XL Tours, that's your chance to go to London, right? So do the tours, do the sightseeing. Like XL Tours can get all sorted out for you. You can really make it your own trip, with Chelsea being the through theme. And that's what I did with Elizabeth. We did London Eye, we did Tower of London, a bunch of other stuff as well. So it's a good way to kind of rope your significant other or your buddies in. I know a lot of people, they did the tour of the oldest pubs in London when we were there as well, which is super cool to kind of see them do that. So
we saw them after they had done that, and they made the Prince of Wales their like home bar, and we saw them there, and there was a couple slumped over some chairs. But you know what, Dan? They earned it.
Nick, I thought you were going to go to the F1 arcade. I thought that was where you're going to take things next as like an action activity that we will be repeating 1000%. Yes.
It's the most fun. I could be in there for hours and hours and hours. It's so good.
Well, look, more details in the bio/description where you're watching or listening to this podcast. So it's on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. So please click on the link for more information. But look, we got to get into the questions. Listener questions from top to bottom in this episode. Matt Fitz with the getting us started with a question about, like, we've given them, which I think is the ownership and others, a lot of shit for signing children and players from Brighton, but it seems the recruitment of some of the young players is turning a corner. Is it too early to give Paul and Larry credit for their work? I didn't realize Lawrence was shortened to Larry. That was a learning for me.
I didn't realize we're on first name basis with these guys.
Apparently. He did offer up a non-Chelsea question about favorite New Year's tradition. So we'll start with should we be giving some credit to Lawrence and Paul, along with maybe the ownership, about the Brightonification of Chelsea and how that's paid off for the team. I think maybe a little too early, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, for me, for sure, right? Obviously, things are going well right now, but it's got to be sustainable as well, which is the lack of experience is always tough. But then I think if you look at even the players on loan, and maybe some of the mismanagement of some of this, like even a Georgia Petrovic who you had and you replaced for Philip, it's like, all right, Jorgensen over Petrovic, it's a wash. Like, did we really move the needle? I don't know. Trevo, in a time where you need clean sheets, Andre Santos having a great season, could he have just done that here? So we're getting, obviously making progress and things like that. But for me, I'm a bit jaded. I think I'll probably be the last one to jump on that bandwagon as far as this group goes. But I'm not opposed to success by any means.
Nick, you holding your praise? Are you starting to give a little bit of credit?
Dan, just a rhetorical question here. Have we won anything since I've been a part of the club?
Not on the men's side.
Yeah,
it was rhetorical.
I had to clarify because I think he was going to say the answer is no, and
Fair.
Chelsea is larger than just the men's first team.
Well, I was going to let the crickets do the talking there, and look, until we do win something, how about we save some of those pats on the back for when we actually have those occasions? Because I think if you're a Chelsea supporter, we're not Arsenal circa 2009. Getting top four is not enough for us as a club. This is not our ambition. It's not their stated ambition of the club owners or the sporting staff either. So if they're looking for praise for having a kind of good half season, I'd be really, really, really worried about that. Let's save it until there's actually something to celebrate. And I think that's a fair standard to hold everyone to.
I think it's absolutely fair. I would say it's a little too early as well, but I think we can be pleasantly surprised with the progress we've made this season and take a moment to enjoy that, particularly as we end the year somewhere in the 1, 2, 3 spots, depending upon how the next couple of fixtures go. As we're recording this on the 18th of December, it drops on the 24th. So maybe some goodness has happened over the weekend too. Who knows? In terms of holiday traditions, New Year's Eve traditions, New Year's Day traditions, I love watching. We would go to the movies and watch a movie that started in one year and ended in the next year. That was kind of like our thing that we've done before. So like
that's cool.
You sneak in some champagne, or maybe if you're going to a place that offers cocktails as a part of it, like the in-seat service, just sneak anything in, just deliver it to you, which is great. That's ours. But I feel like you've got some traditions, Nick. I feel like you've got things that you like to do. No?
I hate New Year's. I think it is the biggest scam in the world. And I may have a whiskey, toast the past year, and move on to the unknown sort of person. But Brandon, you have one that was particularly salient because it was on a XL Tours trip, and perhaps one of the more hungover days I've had in a very, very long time.
Yeah. And like, to be fair, I haven't run it back to really make it a tradition, but it is easily one of my favorite New Year's Eves that I've ever had. And we were at a karaoke bar in London with the group and ringing in the New Year's in a private room with all of those friends, DPZ, Eric, and everyone there. Like, that was very memorable for me, and I'm really glad we did that. A lot of hilarious pictures will still pop up on my memory roll from that stuff, but yeah, I think everyone there had a great time.
It was an Italian bunga bunga party, which is we had a full dinner. We had many drinks. The bar was open and flowing, and then they basically like cleared everything out of the room and put a projector up, and we were all just kind of drunkenly knocking into each other and singing all sorts of songs. I remember doing In Sync with Eric, I think, at one point. That was good. That was a fun night. That was a very good memory.
Oh, look, here's something that's not fun. Freezing cold takes. Techie Tiger coming in with any hot takes that have proven to be ice cold, not Cold Palmer style, but absolutely back of the fridge, frosted over, and something you've forgotten about for a long time. But he did say, looking at you, Nick, and I gotta say it, like, you got a lot of shit, unfortunately, for your take on where Chelsea would land this year. Mm-hmm. But you know what? You put out 1,000+ hours of content. You're gonna have some terrible takes. Like, that is just the nature of this.
Luckily, it's just these 17 and no others. You know, I went back and looked since Techie, who called me out directly on this one. I had a look at our preseason predictions. I got some things right in there, but I did strike out a bit here. So I had us finishing 7th on 59 points. That seems statistically like it's a very poor take at this point. Just with the
highly improbable would be the way I would frame that.
So, I mean, anything could happen, but I think I'm probably going to be pretty wrong there. I had a struggle at the start of the year. That's been the opposite. I thought we would really, really struggle to adapt under Maresca. That's been bad. I had Malagusto or Mark Guiu as young player of the season. That's not going to happen. And then I had, I think the funniest one. This is a real Brandon moment. I had Sterling or Kieran Dewsbury Hall as the super sub of the year. Mm-hmm. I think this was put out, and then Sterling was transferred to Arsenal as on loan. So that was a pretty bad one. But I did get a few around Cucurella right so far, so I'm excited to revisit those.
David Luiz to Arsenal is haunting Brandon right now, as you made the reference there. Yeah.
It's what made me. Look, I think it's mine is in Nkunku, right? I put tongue in cheek. Is he topping the scoring table yet? No. Okay. You catch me later this season.
He is. He's topping the scoring. He's like
conference league.
Right now.
Well, I mean, as far as like, Golden Boot, but conference, you got to asterisk that, hedge it. That was probably my biggest one of the season. Obviously, me saying we need a goalkeeper is that take is still very, very warm. But yeah, it's not been as bad as that, right? But I think like I've for 2 seasons running hedged really hard on Nkunku. At least he's playing. I mean, that's an improvement. So, and he's scoring plenty of goals just in the conference league.
Look, you have to credit the fact that you put yourself out there. I think maybe I don't make enough hot takes to like have one that comes to the top of my mind. I do think I probably pull the trigger a little too frequently and a little too early on the Why Not Us train. And maybe I've caught myself out there a couple of times. That's where I think maybe I have failed the listeners.
Do you remember when you did it under Graham Potter, Dan? That was pretty fun. That was pretty cool.
Look, you talk about brightification of Chelsea. That was the that was the opposite end of where we are right now. So just remember the hits and the misses. Look, we're going to take our first ad break when we get back. Are there downsides to winning the league this early, as well as Sonia Bompastor's wish list? So stay tuned, and we will be right back with more answers to your questions. All right, so FTC
yes.
TK.
Oh, sorry. I'll wait.
asking, are there negatives to winning the league this season other than Todd and company feeling like they were right all along? Look, I don't love vindicating billionaires, Brandon. My answer is like, there's never a disappointment in winning the league. So there's no downside. Are you sure there's a downside? You're trying to make a case for it.
No, look, not in the near term. There's no doubt about it. Like winning the league is the hardest thing for sure. Obviously, I think he's trying to talk, bigger picture and things like that. I think like you'd have guaranteed disappointment after that. I don't think they're going to run on a City-esque, campaign run for the next, 3-4 seasons. So that's like the only downside. But the amount of, I think, shithousery, Nick, that you'd get out of winning the league with such a young team, and like even like think Maresca winning back-to-back league titles in successive years and in progressive leagues and things like that. I mean, there would be a lot of things to just really point and laugh at everybody else, because I think when you look back at all the like the great Chelsea teams we have, this isn't it. And so again, to like pull one over on the rest of the league would just be hilarious.
I mean, where do I start here? One, there are the amount of Arsenal content creators who I've seen in my feed go, if Arne Slot or Enzo Maresca win the league in their first season, Arteta has to go. Like, I've seen that take.
That's the most reasonable take.
Plus, we would get to rub this in everybody's fucking face. Like, it would be tremendous, but particularly Arsenal fans. Last year, they beat us pretty handily at the Bridge. It was a terrible performance. The amount of people in my mentions and in other people's mentions from the red side of London was enormous. And to be able to return the volley with some silverware in hand, it's the only thing keeping me alive right now. That thought is like, just what if, I'm not a bullish person on the title thing. I haven't been, but if it were at the end of the season, we fast forward and we're there holding the trophy, I don't think I'd be allowed in London, because I would be a menace to society. It would be absolutely extraordinary. So the answer is no. There is never a downside to winning.
Agree. So shifting to Dr. Tip's question around Sonia's wish list, asking what position, if any, does Sonia need? Preferred pathway for the women's team in the Champions League. And as they were writing the question, Barcelona and City at half, with Barcelona being second in the group at the time of that match.
Well, we got our preferred pathway
Yes,
because Barcelona ended up winning 3-0. And so I think we avoid Barcelona and Lyon through the knockouts, which is not insignificant if you've been paying attention recently. We've played both of them over the last couple of years multiple times, and they are probably the two other top teams, that we could potentially encounter. So very, very pleased with the pathway in the Champions League. Now, we have to play a lot better if we're going to beat them, because they're both still very good. But the one position, our squad is very deep. If you've been watching my YouTube videos on the Chelsea women's team, we're deep, we're young, we're dynamic. We have players like Kat Macario finally coming back and looking healthy. Lauren James still yet to come back. Sam Kerr, ever heard of her, still about to come back. But the one position that we're a little light right now due to injury is center back. And that, obviously, Kadisha Buchanan going down, injured, Anique Nouwen being out for a long time. Natalie Bjorn is kind of put in a couple dodgy performances as of late. Millie Bright's not able to play week in and week out in the same way. I think she's played a lot of minutes so far, but you want her at her peak for the big games, especially as you get through the Champions League. So I would, whatever amount of money exists to go get Naomi Girma, U.S. or women's national team center back. She's the best in the world. Absolute destroyer of dreams and protector of the realm. That's who I would go get. Naomi Girma is absolutely extraordinary. Go pay whatever you need to in January for her. It could be like this year's version of Myra Ramirez. Go get yourself a bad blank and do some excellent things from January on.
And just a very healthy reminder, if you're not watching the incredible Chelsea women's team at the moment, like you're missing out on some fantastic football. And for as strong a start as Enzo Maresca has had, Sonia Bompastor has one-upped him in terms of the start of the season that she has had. I mean, they are now the first WSL side and the first in Europe since 2022 to win all 6 of their group stage matches in the Champions League, which means that they earn 880,000 euros, which I believe is the one Naomi Girma element that we're looking for. So I think we can fully fund that just from our group stage victory, Brandon, which is a good feeling.
Always setting the pace is so important in these big tournaments because it makes everyone fear you. Also, that's what we brought Sonia in for. It is the most obvious and clear goal and metric for her. And sometimes that's great. No excuses, no distractions.
Other questions around non-Chelsea topics. Christmas bevies and meals. We had Stutz asking what type of drinks do you recommend to start Christmas morning off? Get it started bright and early. And then Nuggets Galore 21 with do we do the traditional turkey dinner?
One of the better names that I've seen in some time.
How many are the galore, Nick?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, how many nuggets do you think Nuggets Galore can take down? Is it 21?
Just wondering how there were 20 other people who had that nickname that they were sharing it with.
Yeah, the username Nuggets Galore 17. Fuck. No, I think a Galore has to be 40 or more, doesn't it?
Look, I could be convinced.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, to round out on their question, they were asking, do you do a traditional turkey dinner or other food traditions? I know, Nick, you are a food aficionado, drink aficionado. Why don't you run us through Christmas Day beverage and then also Christmas traditional dinner or food activity?
Well, Dan, I'm not as Michelin star as you, but I do okay. And I think I'm about to go do this tradition right after recording this podcast. But I make homemade Baileys for people every single year as Christmas gifts. It is particularly handy on Christmas morning when you slide a little bit of the homemade Baileys into your coffee, have yourself a little Irish coffee action going on there. Delightful. So that would be my go-to. Also acceptable, mimosas, Bloody Marys, whatever kind of gets you going. Doesn't really matter. I'm a coffee person, though, so that's my go-to. I would say for the Christmas dinner, because we in the U.S. have Thanksgiving, we usually go non-traditional, no turkey, not the full meal. Like we'll usually do I've made beef Wellington 2 years ago for Christmas dinner. I didn't completely fuck it up. That was nice. We've done prime rib before. We've done lasagna before. It's just kind of whatever we feel like that's happening. And so it's kind of a nice thing. But the one tradition that we do have every Christmas morning is cinnamon rolls. That's a lock every single year. That's kind of the thing we look forward to.
Brandon, I think you were a little bit on the flip side there. Different type of approach to your Christmas Day?
Well, I mean, to start the morning off, you got to get the 30 ounces of water in. Otherwise, you're toast no matter what you do. Start strong, get yourself that base. Yeah, I mean, in the morning, it's got to be light. I do like the idea of the Irish coffee for sure. Some Verlailes, mimosa, orange juice, vitamin C. I get it. I'm right there with you. So, just take the practical choice and add liquor, right? Coffee, liquor, orange juice, bubbles.
Yeah.
Put it together. It's a simple recipe.
And then for dinner?
Red meat. Yeah. For whatever reason, my family's gotten on the train for Christmas again, like Nick, a little bit more traditional, whatever, but Christmas red meat in that sense. So I'll be interested to see. My dad's got a smoker, so I'm going to see if I can grab something from the meat market in town and, start that the night before.
Yeah, I do think we're going to round out on some type of caffeinated beverage that's spiked is a great way to start that.
Jaeger bombs, Dan. There you go.
I thought you were going to go with the Red Bull and vodka, which I not had an energy drink since 2019. So not happening for me. The Irish coffee is a really good choice. And then I think very
Irish car
non-traditional
bomb.
dinners.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then I think Christmas dinner, very non-traditional. I do agree with the red meat. We've had rib cap the past couple of years. That's always been a nice little one. Go a little fancier for that home cooking. And then if I'm at my mom's house, the gingerbread pancakes is the breakfast item that she'll put together with like a maple whipped cream, not out of the can, fresh made, which is really stellar.
How about that?
Who's asking the question though? Bourbon. Nick Verlaney, the question, top 3 bourbons. Just off the dome, what do you got for us?
A lot going on here. Like it depends on what you like and kind of like your tolerance for higher versus lower proof and your taste buds and what you kind of enjoy. Do you like something a little sweeter, something a little more rough around the edges? This is a humble brag, only because Dan and Brandon were there for the final boss that I needed. But I have now had all the Pappy Van Winkles that exist out in the world. And Pappy 12, which is like kind of the lower end of the spectrum, was my favorite by far. I think largely they're good, but they're not like, it won't blow your mind. It's very good, but crazy expensive. A few to throw at you. I'm not going to do top 3 because it's insane. Colonel E.H. Taylor Celebration, their birthday celebration. Very tasty. Delightful even. Dan and Brennan got me this for my birthday, but Old World Rye from Whistle Pig is insane. It's aged in wine casks. It is beautifully smooth. Like, can't emphasize it enough. If you like wine at all and you try this, it's just it'll blow your mind. Jefferson's Ocean is an all-time favorite for me. A little bit of salted caramel action because they age it at sea, so you get the sea air in. Very good. And then if you're looking for something relatively inexpensive, but you haven't tried it, and you're like, Sonoma, California makes whiskey and they make bourbon, they do. Redwood Empire is very, very, very good for the price point. $30 in Kansas City. A bourbon called Pipe Dream, but they also have some higher echelon ones as well. One's called Grizzly Beast, and then they have a bunch of like ryes, and they actually did a single malt whiskey, which is very interesting. So Redwood Empire, if you find them in your little liquor store, give them a try. Very good.
Brandon, you want to round out with any other recommendations or items that you would throw out to the listeners?
Yeah, it's not bourbon, but a Tennessee mash whiskey or like a sour mash. We went to Nelson's Greenbrier earlier this year for my cousin's wedding in Nashville, and I brought a bottle home. Like, I tried their whiskey, their bourbon. We did the flight, and I just thought the sour mash was their best. So I'm giving a shout out to them. Also, longtime listener Matt G, who I'm pretty sure is still at Bluebird Distilling. He sent us bottles, and I was back on their website. They've got a ton of different bourbons. They've got a cask barrel, they've got a double, like they've got whatever you could possibly need. So if you're in like the New England, like Philadelphia,
I think they're Pennsylvania.
Yeah, they're in the
PA.
Pennsylvania area, somewhere kind of in that corner of the world. I do think they distribute. So go check it out. You'd be supporting a fellow blues fan as well.
The only other one I round out with is the Stag Junior. We tend to gift each other either restaurant gift cards or alcohol for our birthdays. It's our kind of tradition, and that was a gift a couple of years ago, and it's almost fully done at this point, which is sad and wonderful because the journey was great and the end is terrible.
Yeah.
But that's been a really good one. Look, Childish Gabnino is asking the question about the title race reality. They know that I'm asking the question already. Why not us? To throw back to the fact of what I do prematurely. But what would it take for Nick Verlaney or Brandon Busby to believe that Chelsea are in a title race? Trademark.
First of all, I think it's important to note that I've never even heard of a title race. I don't know of what you speak. I've never. Those
You and
words
Enzo Maresca.
in that order, I no comprende. I don't get it. To take your question seriously, which bums me out. I think it's February and we're within 5 points of Liverpool, who I think are now pretty clear favorites for the title. And we're regularly beating everyone that we should beat, i.e. everyone below us. and we are taking points off of the top 6. If we do that, the math would math. So there you go.
All right, Brandon.
I mean, I put March, and I also said within 5 points. And the reason I was thinking about that is because City is at the end of January.
Mm-hmm.
From there, you've got Arsenal and Tottenham back to back. So March 15th, and then Tottenham on the 2nd with international break in between. If you can get through that, like and you're still like there and amongst it, like I feel good. And then the one that you have to circle is May 3rd, Chelsea, Liverpool, like at Stamford Bridge. That could be the title deciding match. We do have United 2 matches after that, which could, always could get a little bit interesting at that point. But we end with Liverpool, Newcastle, United, and then Nottingham Forest. But again, we have a really good run after Tottenham. It's Brentford, Ipswich, Fulham, Everton. So there's these opportunities for momentums, and to Nick's points, you have to take them. And we have a really good opportunity literally between now and getting City. It's just now and City between until we get to Arsenal right at the end of March. And so I feel good that's our run. If we can take advantage, like then you can start to talk about it. And like if you notice the matches, there's only like 2 matches in March. April's busy, and then obviously you have 4 matches in May, but like there's that weird lull right at the very end with that international break. And then you start to get the FA Cup and the EFL and potential European Cup matches that start to like chop it up. I think that's, Dan, it's going to get real hairy for some teams if they're getting deep into competitions.
Well, look, I was exempted from this question because I already believe we're in a title race. So I got an alternate question, which was favorite movies of 2024, which I will answer. Now, I broke it up into live action and animated. I think without a shadow of the doubt, there have been a lot of really good movies in 2024. Probably not watch as many as I did last year. But Dune Part 2, very much my favorite film I watched this year. If you want to go animated, you can watch it on Prime Video now. Look Back. It's an adaptation of a one-shot manga series, really, really good about, just kind of like coming of age and the value of like art as a way to kind of break out of shells, but really, really good. And if you have, Prime, not a plug for my employer, free to watch. So that's a very nice thing there. I love this question though. A little bit of a 2-person teaming up to give us a great question. We had Solis with the favorite game you've watched so far. And then Leojic with the top 3 Chelsea games of all time. I've smashed them together to be a favorite 3 games that you've watched. I went with games that I've seen in person. I don't know if you guys took the same approach, but that was my view on it. But Nick, did you take it a different way?
I did take it a different way. I was only at one of these, but it was a pretty damn good one. The first Champions League final is forever, in there, whether it's number 1 or number 2 or number 3, it doesn't really matter because it was great. The second one is the second Champions League final, which we were there for, which is my favorite
Porto?
weekend.
You heard of it?
Favorite weekend I've ever had. And then the third one is the Barcelona semifinal leading to the first Champions League final. It is. I don't know if I've ever been more exuberant or felt like we slayed a dragon than after beating them in that game. It was the most improbable shit in the world. And I have a photo right here, if you're on YouTube, that's of Frank Lampard celebrating after the final whistle in that game. And it is one of my very, very favorite photos ever. And then right over here in the office, off to the side, Didier Drogba hitting the winning penalty. So, yep.
I mean, look, you could do the Napoli away leg too in that run. That whole run
home leg.
Or it's like it was all crazy. It's like the Barcelona match is almost like less probable than the final because final's a one-off. Then Napoli as well. It's just the whole thing is crazy. I did in person too, just because it's like, well, I think most of us have seen all the same matches. And so, and like, welcome to a big club where you've been in big games and we've had big time performances. And so we're just blessed to have that richness of memories and history. So I obviously grabbed the Porto final. I mean, there will never ever be anything better than that. Dortmund, that was the most electric I've ever seen Stamford Bridge, and we were right next to the Dortmund fans too, so that was very intense at that point. But don't forget the Chelsea 3-0 against Middlesbrough right before we won the league title with Conte, and that was
Great
actually
call.
my first time to the Bridge as well. So that was
Same.
that was a fun like the everyone knew we were about to win the title, and like so it was just a party
Oh,
inside the Bridge the whole time. Poor Brad Guzan or not got megged 3 times in that game. I'll never forget it.
Ooh, those are a good one, a good series of games. I think, yeah, it's all outside of the final in Porto. I think that is will always be number one. I do agree the 2-0 victory over Dortmund. One Graham Potter game in my top 3 live is not what I was thinking
Wild,
of necessarily.
wild.
um, First Premier League game I went to at Stamford Bridge was Chelsea beating Arsenal 2-0 when Gabriel and Santi Cazorla got sent off, and Diego Costa helped to make that happen. Very, very fun game. It's all before it went south in that Mourinho season. And then I think actually Chelsea women's one pops up into here. It was being at Kings Meadow. Chelsea win 4-2. Two of the most insane Sam Kerr goals in that game. And then getting to celebrate with all the supporters, winning the league for the 3rd consecutive time. That was a really, really special day out. And, definitely if you have not been to Kings Meadow for a game, particularly for a team that wins as often as they do, very, very fun day out.
we're going when we go back to London. We're going to see Chelsea play West Ham, the Sam Kerr Christy Mewis derby. So we'll be there.
Well, look, we have a bunch more questions still. Personal sofa scores for 2024, talking a little bit about Enzo Maresca's wish list, and then a few more questions like about Trev Chalobah and how do you get him to stay next season. But that's going to get us through this last ad break. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Like Brad has keyed in on a fact that we mention sofa score regularly when we talk about players and ask the question, could we give ourselves a personal sofa score for 2024? And gave us 3 categories for it: personal, professional, and podcast. And Brandon, you went with the boldest of the scores, I think here. Very,
Wow.
very top end.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the personal and professional is pretty significant. Obviously became a dad. That's up there. That's pretty big time. Got the promotion at work too. So yeah, it's going to be a hard one to beat. There's no doubt about it. Obviously the one thing dragging all that down would be podcast involvement, obviously on that side of it. So like I'm very top heavy in my player radar, as you would imagine. Someone called me a one-way player. Not been doing a lot of tracking back, which I understand, gentlemen and audience. So that's where I am missing, but I poached a hat trick, so it's hard for me not to give myself a 10.
Gave up 2 goals on the other end, but boy, oh boy,
Yeah.
the 3 he scored were really good.
It's like
Nick,
Jorginho just bagging penalties, not doing much else.
leading scorer was 7 goals in the Premier League one season. Just remember,
Help me
we've
forget.
come a long way, my friends. Nick, you have a couple here that you offered up.
Yeah, I mean, kind of a weird year, I think, overall. But good. I think this goes 6-ish on the personal scale. Not bad. Professional 7. And then podcast, I give a solid 8. I think there's stuff that we can be doing better. I think we're entering a new reality, obviously. And I think we've done okay to this point. And, I think we have some big plans for how to ramp that up to a 10 in 2025. So I would say, 6, 7, 8.
Well, Catholic guilt would never let me get away with saying a 10 for anything. And then I feel like the floor, when you don't have like major like concerns about your day-to-day
Sure.
life, probably means that your floor is somewhere at minimum of a 7, maybe an 8. So, good relocation across coast, being closer to family, like that's a plus positive on the personal side. So that's 7, 8 for that. Professional, got a great job, love my coworkers, got a nice boss, love the work that I do. So that's 7, 8, and said podcast is kind of same. So somewhere maybe 7, 5 for everything. I'll give it there. Opportunity to get better with it, but the type of everyday performance you'd love to have. Kate has a question about holiday hosting. More so about like what would you prefer to do with a winter holiday, gave multiple choice of 1, go on a vacation, 2, attend holidays with families at a relative's house, or 3, host the holidays at your place. So that's a tough one, Brandon.
Yeah, there are times where I like to host because you're just in your own comfort zone, your environment, you can control things. But not anymore. Like I couldn't imagine hosting with William. So right now my ideal one is a drivable distance where I can come home at night. That's perfect. I don't have to set up. I don't have to clean up. We can be back in our own beds at the end of it. That is ideal, at least in this stage of life. Before this, Dan, our family, we've done many family vacations, the 4 of us, to Mexico, to Costa. No, I guess not Costa. Yeah, we did Costa Rica last year, actually, but Puerto Rico and things like that. And that wasn't bad. I didn't miss turkey at all that Thanksgiving.
Oh, I love the counter program of a holiday if you can get away with it. Obviously, as families get older, maybe it's sometimes a little harder to make the selfish choice sometimes to do that.
You literally
I
just
think,
went to Mexico City
Dan.
for a holiday.
well, to be fair, it overlapped with a more significant birthday than others. So let's just keep that in mind.
Tradition.
I think, yeah, relaxing is the key word for me here. And so as long as it has an element of that, I think it can be either 2 or 3. Shockingly, we didn't have a lot of people come out to visit us in Seattle for the holidays, so we'll see if that changes being back on the East Coast. But yeah, I would.
You're in like holiday mecca in the United States, man. Like you're New York and around Thanksgiving, Christmas. It's like the
It's kind of
place
like
to be.
it's kind of like London or like some of the
Yeah.
German Christmas towns that do it right. Nick, you like to chill. You also like to kind of relax during the holiday season.
I go back to Nebraska every year, be with my mom, and our like immediate family. My sister always comes home. Since I've been in college and done finals, I this time of year I'm always burnt out because my college was crazy, ramp up to finals, and then work. I work in advertising, so this is our busiest time of year, and you just get so worn down by the end of it that you just want to sleep for a week. And that's exactly what I'm going to go do. We're going to watch movies. We're going to drink wonderful bevies. We're going to go out to bars, but it's largely going to be a chill at home experience. Hang with the fam, hang with the dogs, and yeah, just enjoy some time home.
Well, Enzo Maresca might enjoy some time at home if the items that are on the top of his Christmas wish list get delivered under the tree this year. JKT asking the question, what would be on the top of that list? Nick, I think we all went with player solutions, to be fair. And I think that it was the right thing to do. You have one variant. I have a variant. Brandon has a variant. What was yours?
Well, a funny one would be no more media questions about the title race. That'd be great, but we all know that's not going to happen.
No Anthony Taylor officiating a Chelsea game ever again.
How good would that be? Wow, that'd be insane. I don't even know who I'd hate at that point. That'd be a new challenge for me. That'd be great. I think the most critical area that's realistic is a midfielder to spare Caicedo. I think we're awfully thin there. And if Lavia does not get and stay healthy for longer than a couple of matches at a time, which has not really happened this year so far, then we're in deep shit as we head towards the end of the season. So, to think about an Andre Santos coming back from loan or another solution, I think would help me sleep better at night and surely would help him sleep better at night.
Brandon, you took where I was going to go, so I'll cede that to you and then share my alternative answer.
Well, stocking stuffer, gift card to Bed Bath & Beyond so you can get some clean sheets because my, we need the kit man Ricky to do a little more laundry around the club right now. It's just not quite where we need it to be, I'd say.
That is certainly one. Look, I think maybe you round out with another center back option to challenge for the number one spot. West Fofana being injured, Badiashile, Tosin, Disasi not necessarily at the same level. Even Levi Colwell continuing to go through some growing pains, even though it most recently had his probably best performance of the season. So a consistent challenger at the number one center back opportunity would be something I think he would greatly appreciate. When we're talking about gifts, though, M. Dempsey asking the question about, are gift cards an acceptable Christmas gift? Nick, you've got a smirk on your face for those watching on YouTube and maybe or those listening and who are not watching on YouTube and cannot see it.
It's super lame, but it's fine. Like, I think a gift card is perfect for the between 7 and 13-year-old kid who wants a lot of stuff and wants to pick it out themselves. I think if you're outside of that, it's super fucking lame. Maybe the only other exemption I would have is if you're a newlywed and you're starting your, to decorate your house and you need some stuff, that would be the only other situation I could really think of. But I just think it's lame personally.
So my view is a gift is a reflection of caring about one another. And so I agree that it is not the most personal gift that someone can give, but if you're separating money that you spend time to earn and work hard for and to think about someone enough to give that to them, yes, it is not the most personal, but maybe it's what they need, and you can always maybe work to learn better for the coming years about what's something that maybe would be more valuable to them than potentially a gift card. But any gift, I think, is usually a reflection of care. So that's my view on it here. But Brandon, you maybe take a different point if you really don't like them.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's kind of funny. We're on the same page with that a little bit, right? Just saying, yeah, it's not very personal. It's not very, it's not a great gift. And then we also said earlier in the podcast, we like to get each other gift cards. So take that for what you want.
Yeah,
though to be fair, our gift cards we get for each other, we tend to source a specific restaurant and do some research.
It's true.
And get a meal specific item. So
yeah. I will say, and thankfully my wife doesn't listen to this. I think one of the best gifts I've ever been a part of was to you, Nick. I actually think that.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Lasso script.
The Lasso script, man.
That's one of it's my top 3 gifts of all time of that we gave, because it was high impact. It was super relevant.
I have it right next to me. It's in a fireproof box because I value the shit out of that. That was a very unexpected and very thoughtful gift.
Which is the fun when there's stuff behind it. So you just got to be careful with the gift card, Dempsey. Don't give the Amazon, don't give the prepaid Visa.
Yeah.
That's where I'm if you can't give it to them physically, or you can't pick out the shoes that they wanted from Nike or whatever. Okay, I to Nick's point, I get it, right? Let them choose it, but just be careful. Don't go generic, unless you don't like them. Then absolutely don't waste your time.
I think the lesson here is get everyone a signed Ted Lasso script. So
sure,
there you go.
Yeah, that's the answer to the problem. Look, Jay had a couple of questions. We'll go rapid fire on these. Question 1 was Nico Jackson's flying high. Is the Ocean ship sailed, or do we look at him other competition for the number 9 spot? Asking if we could be a manager of any other non-Chelsea football club, what would it be? And then what do we need to do as fans to keep Chalobah at the club? Why don't you give me your rundown of those, Brandon? 1, 2, 3.
So who? Goals aren't our problem today. Maybe talk to me in a few months, but as of right now, not the problem. I don't know who I would sign. I was trying to think back to when I played FIFA and they had all the different badges from the fun teams around Europe. But I do think if you did someone in Boca River Plate for one of those crazy rivalry matches, or maybe Flamengo and some of the Brazilian teams that just have a ton of history and stuff where literally there's no money in it. It's just all fueled by passion. I think that would be a lot of fun as well. And then, did you read all 3? Do I have to give all 3?
Yeah, just in the Chalaba.
On Chalaba?
Like yeah.
Guys, that ship has sailed. They are so desperate to move him at this point. Like he could win Defender of the Year this season, which he won't, but he's doing very well at Palace. They wouldn't pick him up. They would just cash in on an even higher price tag because there's no what is signing on fee that had to be amortized. It's straight to the bottom line. So it's not going to be.
Nick, what's your rundown of the three?
Jackson, just let him cook. He's doing extremely well. We don't need to introduce a whole new element to this attack. I think we're scoring enough goals to be competitive. It's whether or not the defense can keep them out, which is the real issue. If I had to manage any non-Chelsea team, I'm going to do what Cesc Fabregas did and go to Como.
Great call.
What are you, fucking serious? It's the most beautiful place on earth. You tell me I got to live in Como and manage Como on the lake and eat Italian food all day? Oh no, how terrible. I'll see you guys over there. That's what I'm doing.
It's a great call. And the Chalaba ship has sailed in your mind as well.
Yeah, look, you guys know I love Trev. I absolutely love Trev. I think Trev is better than Disasi for sure, probably just as good or better than Tosin. So, like, make of that what you will. But, yeah, they've made it pretty clear what their stance is.
Look, I think that's very fair. I also agree. Percival Jackson, he's the guy. And then you got Nkunku as the backup. So I don't think we're really in a bad shape here unless you found someone extremely high value. I think I actually love the idea. Like, Amber left. Sporting would be great. Go work in Lisbon. In Portugal. That sounds like a terrible idea.
That'd be fun.
I also think actually the J League, having watched a couple of games, they got some really intense fans. Anywhere in the Osaka region, so that would be pretty fun.
But hey, read what you wrote. Just read the sentence for me.
If you could be a manager of any non-Chelsea football club, which would it be?
No, your answer.
Read your answer. It would be fun to manage a side with very low expectations because you might not be good at it.
Tottenham.
Yeah, there you go, Dan.
Spurs are calling Dan.
Thinly veiled.
I was waiting for you to read it so I could slide
or Arsenal.
In there.
Who knows? We'll see. And then I think the only way back for Chalaba is we continue to leak goals and need right back cover. But with Josh getting his contract extension here, maybe that is not necessarily going to be something that Chelsea need to think about as much. Shifting, though, to MJ's question about what are your day jobs and how much time outside of those do you put into the podcast? I did it as a weekly basis to best way to kind of math that out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I work in advertising. I work for a big six ad agency.
I mean, we're all on LinkedIn, so if people really wanted to do some diligence, I'm sure they could.
Yeah. You said what, 10, 15 hours a week, Dan, between watching the games, getting the scripts together, doing the YouTube videos, coordinating a bunch of trip stuff, all of the extra goodies that we have in here. Yeah, it's probably 10, 15 hours a week. I think it's about right.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I work in tech and business development for a major company and one of its subsidiaries. So, always home. That's kind of our motto. So no surprise there. And
he's primed and ready to go, Look,
we made lots of jokes. Was it 6 or 7 years ago when I was shipping scarves about Dan is on Prime? So
Dan is on Prime.
Thankfully, not something we have to consider anymore. But
the slowest delivery you'll get.
Did not meet a 2-day guarantee. No. That's for sure. Though we were not charging a monthly fee for it. So let's be fair. Yeah. Brandon, you have an answer to this one?
Yeah. So tech sales, right? Sales manager. Driving outbound team. It's fun, having a blast doing it. Look, you could ask me last year how much time I spent on the podcast, right? Like, it's a shell of what it used to be. But I do a lot of behind the scenes operation stuff, legal, tax, all that fun side of on the biz apps. So, got to make sure that our Google Drive doesn't expire. Jake would be freaking out
or run out of space. Very important things to consider.
We're always on that stuff. But yeah, so anyways, you can literally put as much time into these things as possible. The big gap I've noticed this year, having taken a step back, is I didn't realize how much time I spent on like X and Reddit and just like keeping tabs of not only Chelsea, but the Premier League, Europe. It is easily another, 20-hour week job. It can fluctuate when you just count all the scrolling and the knowledge. And like, thank gosh we have WhatsApps with really smart people with like Ollie and Sam and Andrew and Jason and all the different groups that we have, right? To help stay on top of that stuff, because this is the most day-to-day hobby that we could possibly have.
I mean, every day, like waking up in the States, like our friends in England are 6 hours ahead of us. I wake up to Mykhailo Mudryk drug test or whatever the thing is. Josh Achiyembong signing his contract today. Like I woke up and with squinted eyes was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Like, great. It's like we're a little bit behind over here. So, it's a constant job to keep up.
Yeah, but very fun to get the privilege to do it and have people more than our friends and family listen on a every other day type of basis. Tune in is definitely a reward unto itself, and to have you either listening or watching the podcast is something we greatly appreciate. Reflecting on the last question from Tom, two-parter. What was your favorite thing you did this year, and what is the thing you are most looking forward to in 2025? Nick, you got some options here? I think I know where you're heading.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. So the 2024, the best thing I did was go to Europe, did an F1 race in Barcelona, and went to a Euros game. Went to France v Poland in Dortmund, so I got to experience that wonderful stadium. And then, just ate and drank to my heart's content in Europe for like 10 days, which was epic and something I will never forget. So that was the best thing I did last year. Going back to London this year is for sure on the list. The Club World Cup in Atlanta and Philly coming up this summer. And then Dan and I are going to go to Blues Day in New Orleans coming up in February. So there's a lot of Chelsea happening here. It's going to be insane. I've never done anything Mardi Gras related before, so that'll be a new experience. But one, as a person who has been in New Orleans and understands New Orleans, one I'm very much looking forward to.
I think it's going to be a blast. I think 2025, there's a lot of Chelsea related activities that we're looking to get involved with. Blues Day, the trip back with XL Tours, the Club World Cup in the summer. I put it as particularly going back to London and seeing Chelsea on their way to winning the Premier League this season. So just specifically what I'm looking forward to. And then I've talked about it enough, but 2 weeks in Japan, very, very cool type of life-changing trip. Just an opportunity to get outside your comfort zone and do some exploration of another country, another culture. Very, very cool. Can't wait to go back. Brandon, I think I know where yours is heading. It was the amount of time you spent with us in 2024.
There's no doubt about it. Thanks, man.
Front loaded the year, obviously. I had to get it in while I could. It was good. I tell you what, becoming a dad was wild. It is the best thing. Can't even really describe it. And it just continues to just provide joy every single day. So we're so blessed and lucky to be able to do that. And he's an easy baby, like for everything that goes into it. Like he's happy, he sleeps, like life is good with him, and it's a lot of fun. Next year, clearly I took this way not serious enough in my answer. But I want to level up my meat cooking game as well. So we just bought a quarter cow, getting that rolling. Yeah. So we're getting a bunch of new roasts and a bunch of new steaks that I've never had before. And I want to find the right seasonings. I've got the propane grill. I don't know if I want to get the smoker while we're at the townhouse, but just make sure I got the equipment that we're taking care of it and cooking this meat nice and slow to perfection. So, probably gonna have to upgrade some cast iron ware, I think, a little bit here. So
Hank Hill is so proud of you for the propane mention there. Really, really well done.
What a throwback. Oh my gosh.
God damn it, Bobby.
Well, look, that is another holiday mailbag in the books, done and dusted, dropping on Christmas Eve. Whether you celebrate or not, we hope that you have a wonderful time with friends, family, loved ones this part of the year, this part of the season. Hopefully you're enjoying Chelsea's continued fine form across the men's and women's team, and then everything else within your personal life too. But that's going to do it for this episode. So thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful community. And until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.